Hello and welcome back, everyone. We are still live here at OFFF Festival in Barcelona, and I have Bradley here with me. Welcome, Bradley.
Good
How
morning.
Are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Shall I call you Bradley or GMUNK?
You can call me GMUNK if you want.
GMUNK?
Yeah.
Monkey? Is that where it's coming from?
It's all coming from the monkeys.
From a monkey, yeah.
Lots of monkeys.
We all do, don't we?
Yeah, we're all monkeys. Mischievous little monkeys.
So first and foremost, what brings you to OFFF?
Well, I'm speaking here tonight.
Yeah, what time?
So I have to be here. I'm required. I speak
time?
at, I think, at 7:45, Spanish style.
Yeah,
7:45 until about 9:30.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
if you guys are here,
Gonna
don't
do about
miss
a
Bradley.
90-minute epic close down, throw down.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is your topic? What are you going to be speaking about?
Ooh, it's a lot about personal work, reinventing yourself, choosing hobbies that you can develop in your older years.
Okay.
Once I turned 40, I had to be like, okay, I can't design 100,000 layer Photoshop comps anymore. I don't really want to. So, photography has been really nice because you don't need a production crew. You just need yourself. Grading photos is awesome in Lightroom. It's really relaxing. And then making psychedelic art in Maya. Those are my two hobbies right now besides directing and doing commercial projects.
That's amazing to hear. So
yeah.
Tell us a little bit how you got started. What did you study? How long ago was that?
Oh man, I went to the best. I went to the best design school in the world at Humboldt State University in Northern California in the Redwoods, in the Ewok village of Humboldt County. I studied film, graphic design, fine art, and cannabis and psychedelics.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a multidisciplinary major.
And then when you started
lots of
working,
psilocybin and film.
And when you started working, what was one of your first jobs?
Well, here's the thing, my young Adobe lings, is coming out of school, I entered a lot of competitions, and so I was very keen on Flash at the time. It was a long time ago, and I was doing a lot of Flash narrative and combining mediums in Flash. Flash was like my final mixing board, if you will, with audio and video and GIFs and pixel art and graphics and all sorts of things. So I entered a lot of competitions, and one of the competitions was this Envision New Media Awards in San Francisco, and I won Best in Show for Web Excellence. And
Congrats.
these two, thank you. This was about 1999, so about 20 years ago. And these two creative directors from a startup called Virtual were there, and they were doing like experimental web design. And they recruited me, and I went to go work for them in Rockville, Maryland for 6 months, and then in London for a year and a half.
So you were in web design first?
Yeah, web design.
Yeah.
Web design and animation, but I was kind of like the video editor in the web design team. Yeah, I was doing a lot of, and porting that all into Flash, and they basically had a bunch of startup money, so they recruited all the best designers in the world, and we all went to London. So that was where my real education was.
Yeah.
It was with the Swedes, the Danes, the Germans. I was the only American coming out of the forest, coming out of the redwoods.
How did you feel about that?
I loved it.
What would you say was the biggest difference between the US and London?
Oh, it's a whole different. I mean, Humboldt, I've been sarcastic, is literally like one of the worst design schools in the world. Like it's just like it's a state university that is just all about botany and chemistry, really. It's not a huge art program, at least back then. So this was my real college, was working with these guys, and learning from Scandinavian design and English design, German. Danish. It was just amazing.
What would you say is the biggest difference?
More sophisticated.
Yeah.
More just a real. Like if I would have went to like SVA or Parsons or something, I would have had a much more intellectual education. Whereas I kind of just was learning on my own and teaching myself with like Peach Pit Press and all these lynda.com back in the day. So it was all self-taught really. And graphic design class was like cutting out letter forms and pasting and gluing shit. It wasn't relevant to kind of the time. I felt like it was a little old school. And so with these guys, it was a real eye-opening experience because I was basically just looking at their work and copying them, these same guys. Okay. We were all kind of this web scene. And it was in its infancy. It was so special and it was so interesting back then. The loaders, and the intros and the convoluted web experiences. And that was my real education. It was about a year and a half. Yeah, wow. I was really lucky. I mean, it was all luck. And it was lucky because I was in the right place at the right time. Putting my work out there, entering competitions, meeting people, and I got a break. That was a big break.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think career success is a series of breaks, you know, and you gotta put yourself in the right position
Great.
to receive those breaks. You know, that's everything.
That's a great intro. If you guys have any questions for GMUNK here,
This is the
put
live
them.
feed?
This is the live feed. This is the live chat. No questions so far, so we can.
Oh, it's on a delay.
Yeah. But that's a technical thing.
Oh,
so
okay.
let's
Here we go.
take
Now I'm gonna slouch. There you go. This is good. This is gonna be fun.
Just try not to watch yourself. Try to watch the chat.
Yeah. I'll watch the chat. All right, what we got?
Yeah, but let's take a look in your on your website.
Okay.
And talk
I have a
us-
Behance.
You have a Behance?
Yeah, dude,
Which
I'm
one do you
crushing
prefer,
on
your
Behance.
website or your Behance?
Oh, that's a trick question. That's a trick question, dude.
Or other question, why do you have a Behance and a website?
Here's a perfectly diplomatic answer. The audience is much larger on Behance.
Okay.
You know, this is, you know, there's a lot more people, there's a lot more eyeballs and a lot bigger community on Behance. So I'm very lucky to have it.
Right.
Personal website, you have the ultimate control over what you're showing, how you show it, the formatting. So for me personally, I think it's good to have both.
Yeah.
But many more people go to Behance,
Yeah.
I think.
And do you have the same projects on your website and on Behance, or do you differentiate?
I don't have as many on Behance.
Okay. And why is that? Do you recommend to have less on Behance and more on a website? If
It's
people
just
have
due
both?
to being lazy.
Yeah.
I have like 130 on my
Okay.
website and
Okay.
probably like 60 on Behance, and all the older stuff I couldn't be bothered, to be honest. I was just kind of like, this is enough. This is enough.
But that's
This
what
is
we
enough.
hear very often, that put your most recent work on Behance and not the old stuff. Try to put things on it that about the fields that you want to work in here right now.
That's good
So,
advice, yeah.
I mean, we have the Behance portfolio review later, so we can
Yeah,
get
we'll
back
get
to
into
that.
it.
But
I think, you know, on my personal website, it tells a story. It
Yeah.
tells like the story of my entire career. So I have work spanning back to like 2001 on my personal website, but the Behance one is a little bit more professional and kind of, you know, the work is more curated,
definitely.
you know, for a more focused audience.
It looks great.
thanks.
Show me a project that you're very proud of and why.
Oh gosh, probably this one. Telestron was a recent robotic light installation that we did with my dearest friends at VT Pro Design, who are in Los Angeles, and we made just a really crazy experience that people go into with these giant 15-foot tall robots carrying this like geometric, you know, kind of this piece of geometry that uses a gobo to filter the light. And there was about 15 different light sources inside of each of these, and they just do this robotic dance and channel the spiritual powers of nature.
And you built them?
What's that?
You built them?
Yeah.
These lights? Yeah.
Well, the robots exist. They're like assembly
Yeah.
line robots, and then the lights, you know, we rigged up. You know, it's a different kind of medium. It's not really design per se. It's more like sculpture.
Yeah.
You know, it's
But
more
very
like physical,
interesting.
experiential design. But what I
So
like
how
about
do you do
it,
the concept until you get into production?
me and a dear friend of mine, Michael Fullman, we sit down in my kitchen and we take toy robots and we say, Cobra pose. Boom, this represents the summer and the sun is overhead, so the light is really warm and bright, and what does it do? And then we come up with like a 1 to 2 minute little choreography of what the light is doing and what the music's doing.
Do you
It's more
practice
like a
with
script.
torches or something like that? Or what?
Kind of,
Really?
yeah. We nerd out on lights. I
Tea
like that
light.
one because, I like this one just because it's very different. And anytime you start combining technologies that are really unique and aren't paired normally together, then you get really interesting results. And I just like the scale of it. I mean, if you look here, like this is, you know, we had about maybe 100 people going in at a time, and you know, by the end of the 3 days, these people were sitting on the floor and looking straight up at these robots. It was just a really impactful experience.
Wow.
And these dudes are big, you know, they're big, and I like the scale of it, and I like the sound and the immersion.
Did you take all these pictures?
I took, these are all from, we made a big film about it.
Yeah.
And then I took all of these pictures.
So you also made a film
Yeah.
of it, yeah?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have that in here as well?
Yeah. It's
Can
at
take
the
a
top.
look?
It's at the top. Yeah, it's here.
Moving lights.
Yeah, moving lights. It's about 7 minutes long, and the thing about it is it was hard to sometimes it's hard to make a film about an experience because it doesn't translate the scale and the immersion. You know, a film is you're kind of, you know, it doesn't fill your periphery. You know, for full immersion, it has to kind of fill your peripheral vision. Then you're inside of something. But this one, you know, it kind of is. it's not the same as being there and really feeling the scale and the sound and just the vibration of the room. And this is actually real water with a black pool dye that created a perfect reflection. This is a really beautiful.
How many cameras did you film with?
2.
2? Only 2?
Only 2. Yeah, just lots of cuts, lots of moving around.
Yeah, but it looks so much more.
Yeah.
Like based on all the angles. Or maybe it's just the illusion that you get because of the light.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's really interesting.
It's a big one, yeah. And here you'll see that this is kind of a mysterious act where they're trying to find each other, so they're searching for each other, and then they find each other, and it all kind of goes crazy, and it's really, really, we wanted to imbue these robots with a personality and a vibe, so it's not just like crazy stroby all the time. It's gentle, and you can really feel like when you see these robots that they really are looking for each other, and there's this delicate quality to them that I thought felt really, really compelling.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
We have a question in the chat. Ty is asking, I wonder if Bradley would ever consider reshooting this project for VR.
That's a great question. I've been doing a lot of spherical media right now, and I think, the one thing that, yes. The answer is yes, because I think the next one we do will be that. Will be for 360 and will be an experience that you can do to put yourself inside of it, because it exists. It's there's one thing to have, you have a film and there's sets and props and stuff and there's cuts and there's all these different scenes. It's like, well, that's kind of harder to do in VR, but this is one thing that you go inside and you can experience, so it's perfect for VR. And so our next one, which I can't tell you right now because it's secret, but the next one we do will be we'll transcend a lot of different mediums. It'll be an experience. It'll be a VR. It'll be a film.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it'll be lots.
We have another question from Renaissance Girl here.
How
long did it take to flesh out this idea?
Oh, about 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
6 to 8 months. Who's it? Renaissance Girl. For 6 to 8 months. Yeah, it was to build it and produce it was about a month. But to really get it set up, you had to previs everything in 3D to kind of figure out what's happening. We prevised everything out, and we worked that way because you can't just like program the robot moves
and test
on the fly. Yeah, it's slow. So you do it in 3D, and it basically looks exactly like this.
Wow.
And then
so
it becomes real.
So if you did it digital, why do you do it in real?
Oh, because nothing beats the real thing, baby.
Okay, sorry. But can't you get it
real?
So
Real's the best.
But can't you get it nowadays so close that it looks almost real? No, never.
Never.
What's the difference?
Oh God, I mean,
for people who are not in your industry.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can't. Real will never date. Mm-hmm. Real will never. Real is it's in front of you. You can touch it. This is why Blade Runner never dates, because it's all real sets and real lights. And if you look at old cinema, it never dates because it's all real. Star Wars, those miniatures will never date because they're actually real.
I see.
Yeah, so CG comes and goes, and it'll always get better. And you can kind of, if you go see a battle in Avengers, you kind of like feel like you've seen it before. But if you see a real fight, you're like, oh,
it's different.
It's a real thing. Old Bruce Lee movies, they're real. It's timeless. You can't, if you're real, you'll never, we're here.
I'm just an illusion.
Yeah. Another project that I wanted to talk about is, and we'll kind of keep in this new media theme, was Adobe project.
One quick question before you move on. I can't pronounce his name, but he's asking why.
What a name!
Why not? Yeah.
Massimiliano.
Thanks for trying. Why not a cam on the robot arm?
We've done that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me answer that question. So yes, that's good thinking, Massimiliano. For this project, the box demo, this was a projection mapping project that the camera's on a third robot. And for Telestron, we didn't do that because we just didn't have the money or the time. Mm-hmm. But for Box, there's 3 robots here. There's 2 robots holding the screens, and then there's a third robot having the camera. And the reason that we have this illusion of depth is because the 3 robots are working together, creating parallax. And it becomes an illusion. So here's where the illusion is the strongest, is here. This is all projection mapping. So those are just canvases, and then we're projection mapping an image from a projector, and then there's a third camera moving with the canvases to get that parallax, so you actually see into the canvas. So that's what we did for this, and the camera on a third robot is motion control, which I do a lot of, which helps you kind of create parallax and illusions of depth. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. This one was done in 2013, I think 2014, and was just,
it was a long time ago.
Long time
really
ago.
Advanced.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this was a pairing of really special industries and people at a specific point in time to create something that will never, this is really hard to do, and it was because we were at a motion control company and had a projection master and a design team, and all the different industries came together for like a very special production.
It reminds me a little bit on Inception, when the city comes out from the
side.
Yeah, really
Yeah, this
cool.
one was a very unique project. And I think for me, and this is a recurring theme, is I always want to take things that are flat and give them an illusion of depth, and which is a perfect segue into the next project I want to show you guys, which is for Dolby. And they have this amazing screen platform in their office, and it's an LED screen that wraps around 2 walls.
Cool.
And what we wanted to do is, we created a 12-minute, beautifully rendered kind of 3 different worlds that a satellite explores. But when you look at it through your phone, there's an AR experience. So you actually become a satellite on the outside. So you're looking at the screen there, but you're actually looking at the planet that you're surveying in front of you. So you're out, it's like the screen is the surface of the planet, and the space between them is actually the outer space where you're looking at the planet itself. And so I thought that was a cool pairing because it takes you off the screen and you're still in the world.
Yeah.
And you could still walk through the world, and this is the same planet that you're looking at on the screen. And we rendered all of this in Unity using the same source files and stuff. And I love this project just because it was something different. And for me, I really wanted to push the aesthetic of real time. So, using fog and specular highlights and emissive textures and stuff, and 3 different worlds. This is an ocean world. This is all, fluid simulations. It's tricks, but it's all, it's this golden ocean with this like illuminated coral underneath it, shining through, and this perpetual golden hour going through the mountains and stuff. And I love this project because it was just something different for me. I've been doing a lot of pre-rendered stuff, and this was something, rendered in real time. We could just you could go into VR and inhabit any of these worlds because it's already done.
So is the inspiration real pictures? Are these real pictures? Yeah.
Well, these are rendered. This is done in Unity. So this is all CG. It's real time.
But where did you get the inspiration from?
Just places I've traveled.
Yeah.
This is really inspired by Iceland. This is inspired by like infrared oceans and the desert. And then the third one is kind of, craters. I do a lot of photography, and I go to different places. And so this was inspired by the Loddapalur crater in Iceland. We shot this giant crater, and I always was thinking, like, what would happen if there's these laser beams coming out, and there was this planet that was trying to like reach other planets and beam. These are all like transmission signals coming out of all these craters, and it just turned into a really beautiful, kind of moody, ominous world.
Yeah, it looks stunning, like a different planet.
Yeah. But
that's what science fiction is all about, right?
That's right. Yeah, and this is all inspired by Iceland. Yeah, and fog, same kind of thing, moving fog, and then this is all emissive, and the way they light up the crater is really interesting. Yeah, this is a really fun project.
Did you create them in panoramas, so they wrap around?
That's the aspect ratio of the screen.
Oh,
so that was also fun because I love shooting panoramas. So yeah, the screen is super widescreen.
Long. Wow.
Yeah, it was like 9,900 by 1080 or something.
Wow.
Crazy.
And have you had,
it's
when
like
people...
5-to-1 aspect ratio, even more.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's
And when
huge.
people are using the app, have you had people crashing into the screen accidentally or stuff like that?
That's a good
Do you have
question.
any stories to tell?
I didn't see any.
No.
Everyone seemed to kind of understand where things were. But I love Dolby. They're one of my favorite clients. I just, they're all about entertainment and pushing the limits of, imaging and sound. This is great. And then, I do a lot of, traditional stuff with, this was a music video, all just traditional filmmaking. This is a photography series.
Before you move on, we have a question from Kevin. How do you stay creative in today's world to find ideas like this?
Well, that's a good. I mean,
Traveling,
photography, getting away from the computer screen, taking walks. I get a lot of ideas in the shower, like a lot.
Right.
Sing. I listen to music. I think it's just
The water?
The water, yeah. I get a lot of
Yeah,
ideas
I've read
swimming.
some studies that water makes you more creative
Makes
when
you
you
more
when you
creative.
watch the water, when you sit by the water.
Yeah, we're all little
or
dolphins.
you take a shower.
Yeah, we're all little dolphins. Yeah, I tend to get a lot of ideas just getting away from things, and also just consuming, consuming films and books and old design. We talk about we did all the holograms on Tron Legacy, and all of the inspiration came from Ernst Haeckel, who was a biologist who would draw these like crazy organisms, these fictional organisms, and we just looked at those and made them into holograms. We made them into data structures, and it was the perfect reference. It was the perfect reference because it's just so intricate and weird, and translating those into more of a techie vibe was the perfect thing. So the pairings that you choose for your reference and where you take them is always really interesting.
Sounds amazing.
So I think Kevin, you're asking that because it's very saturated out there, and you sit on Behance and there's a bazillion portfolios and stuff. And I would say go retro, man. Go look at like old stuff. Go look at classic stuff, and just really consume the masters of previous decades and generations. And there's a lot there. There's a lot there to find, and you'll be surprised. I think a lot of design now, it's so saturated, it's so heavily populated, it all follows trends. And you don't definitely just want to follow a trend. You want to kind of get away from that and get into kind of, old vintage things, or just find your voice in other, trends that have come and gone. I think you'll be more successful.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So let's move on to your next project. Sorry,
Monkey
for
King.
interrupting.
Okay, yeah. This was a photography series. It's like a narrative photography series where we kind of have this lost, desolate, sleepy monkey who finds his, beautiful bride and gets energized, and his eyes open, and they become these, like, bright LED lights, and they become this beautiful pairing, and they share the energy. So it was an opportunity to use studio strobes and speed lights with gels to create colorful gradients in these worlds. And this is an animatronic gorilla suit. So this is actually a robot.
Really?
A robotic face and a dude in a monkey suit.
Couldn't get a real one? Nothing is like the real thing.
Nothing like the real thing, but this is like a $200,000 suit that they use in like feature films and stuff. And so, it's a real dude in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't get a real monkey. It was.
Yeah, that's sad. Okay,
yeah, it's
but
sad.
it looks almost like the
she's
real
real.
thing. She's real.
And she's
Are you
kind
sure?
of in a comatose state, and he finds her and rescues her and pulls her out, and then he's energized, and this was kind of the inception for the whole thing. I wanted to create this character with these LED eyes that's kind of looking for power. And
they're real? You really created them?
No, this is fake. Yeah, I shot a bike light and then composited him into his eyes. It was they wouldn't let us modify the head. Like I said, it's a very, very expensive head, and so I wasn't able to modify it and put the light inside. Yeah, it was it was a personal project, and this is kind of their connection. This is gets a little wrong there for a second. Very moody. Yeah.
How many pictures did you shoot?
Oh, a lot. Yeah, but that's the beautiful thing is to create a film out of this would have been editing and color grading, and I feel like I could tell the story with still images and just really create sharp, crisp, high res footage, and it wasn't as much pressure. I was able to execute this for a much smaller budget. Mm-hmm. But it's just kind of I had this character in my head that I wanted to create, but I didn't have the budget or the support to create a film out of it. I wrote 2 different scripts for this, but this one was just a way to get it out of my head. And there's a making of video.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a making of video, and here's the crew. This is like small crew on a summer day in London. It was super, super hot. And that's my buddy, the photographer down with all the tattoos. He's my friend, James Swadlow. He was the photographer, and I was kind of, the creative director on the project. And
that's when you realize how much work is behind these few pictures.
Yeah.
It appears so easy, but then when you see how much work is behind, then you're really baffled.
Yeah, and the MVP of it, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this guy right here I met at a luggage store. and I was getting one of my suitcases fixed, and I was talking to the guy, showing him some stuff, and he was like, "Hey, if you ever need a photo assistant, give me a call." And we totally needed he saved us, man. He was really great setting up the lights, and he was such a great help. He was from Romania, and he was so awesome. But it's stories like that, you're in a luggage store and you meet your camera assistant, and
amazing
that's
story.
That's what's always so fun about the being creative, and everybody wants to make things. Everyone wants to go on adventures and collaborate, and so that's the spirit, right? You just you just make stuff and people will get on board.
We have a question from John here. He's asking how much research do you do prior to starting your design for a specific client?
Tons of research. We always start with reference. We always make a Pinterest board. We always start looking at things, finding different aesthetics that we like, different treatments, executions, and then we kind of pool those together, and then we will write kind of, how do we apply that? I think we never look at something and say, that's it, we're just going to do that. We always look at something and then say, okay, well, where are we going to take it? How are we going to do it differently and evolve it and put our own spin on things? And then, depending on the brief, depending on...
We have good microphones. We just need to speak a little bit louder.
Yeah.
But something is going on behind us.
Something's going on. But I think, you always have to take it someplace. And depending on the client, there's always a big difference between personal work and client work. Client work is all about the client for me, and it's like they're coming to you for a certain execution or an aesthetic or an approach, but it's at the end of the day it's all about making the client happy for me.
Yeah.
And I don't really get too, I always state my opinion and I always give my advice, but I don't really get too upset about things when they don't choose it. They usually 50% of the time do their own thing, and get, or music choices is usually, editorial or music is always kind of the one where it gets really subjective, but aesthetic and design is usually, they're usually in agreement, but
yeah.
once you start getting into music and kind of the vibe and emotional response, so I think with client work, you just have to kind of understand who it's for and do your best to make the client happy. And then you'll get more client work, and then you'll make monies, and then that'll pay for your personal endeavors. It's kind of like that.
I actually have a question. Is there a project in your portfolio that you don't really like anymore, and why?
This one, I think we did a cymatics approach with gallium, which is kind of like a liquid metal, and I thought these are the tests, and these were with water, and it was just beautiful specular highlights, and the way that it reacted to the light just felt really responsive. And then when we went to the gallium, it was much more stiff. It was much more kind of messy, and here, this is the gallium. It was much more like globby, and I just didn't love the execution of this. I thought it was, we would have liked to do the water.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those things that we didn't really, it was a new approach, and we kind of just did it. And I looked at it and it just felt kind of sticky and globby, and it was cool, but I wanted a little bit more out of the cymatics. We basically made a cymatic logo for Vice for their new music channel. And
interesting.
And it was cool.
So your inspiration was sound waves or beats?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
But I didn't love the final product. I thought it just...
What would you do different if you could redo it?
I would make the letters much deeper.
Okay.
I would have cut them better because there's phrase everywhere you could see, because it's all macro, so you see all that stuff.
Yeah.
I would have cut it better, made them deeper, and used water, and just really played up the music, and also made it kind of more negative space in there, so it would have a burst of sound and then quiet for a second and then sound again and quiet, just so there's a delta, then just so there's change in it. With all my projects, there's always learning, and there's always a takeaway that you would do something different. There's never a project where I would look at it and be like, that's perfect, or I love it. The only things I really love are the really absurd stuff I do, which is like either really perverse work or whimsical, kind of flippant, design work. All of this, every single one of these I would do completely different if I did it again. And that's kind of the point, is you can't love your work too much, or else you'll never learn anything. You got to be honest with yourself, and you got to let others be honest with you, without reacting too much to it, because everyone has their opinion, and I kind of just take in everything and just grow. Every project's growing, and when I'm 60, I'll probably stop learning. 65, 70, older monk.
Speaking of learning, we had quite some submissions for portfolio reviews, so thank you guys out there.
Yeah.
And they all want to have your help, and we have one person here live. I can't really pronounce his name. Istvan, is that correct?
Well, we got to answer Huxel real quick. Should we add a Huxel?
Hello.
No, he's not really have a question.
No. Istvan is here.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Istvan. Nice to meet you. I'm Steph.
Are you ink clear?
Sorry?
Are you this guy?
No, I am
Nope.
not. I am that
This
one.
guy?
This guy.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Definitely.
All right, so we're going to review your portfolio.
Yeah. Well, my name is István. I am from Hungary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and well, I have a visual art background, which means that I'm doing some graphic design work and video work as well, and collage art.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would like to show you some video stuffs.
Let's do
Yeah,
it, man.
yeah.
You drive.
Yeah, this is the first one. What I wanna show you. This is a personal project.
That's good.
Yeah.
You do a lot of personal work? You kinda
Yeah,
get-
well, my portfolio is mostly about personal stuff.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it well, it
cool.
should be move. Yeah, it's moving.
Yeah,
so
the internet's a
basically,
little
what I did here is just I put together two images. The sun is captured by NASA, obviously,
Yeah.
and the landscapes are my photos, and yeah, and I just put inside. I mean the sun.
Yeah, what kind of story do you want to tell here? Like, what is the
Well, I
reason?
looking for transcendent moments in my life,
Yeah.
and maybe they are not real; they are really surreal stuff. But yeah, this is how I looking for my own personality, something like that, through my visual creations. So yeah, this is like.
I think the one thing that would sell this better is a little bit of a camera move.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And just getting where's the brightness on it? It's just getting the thing with compositing is always about movement.
Yeah.
Because then it sits in the space and you can see parallax, and in this subway, how awesome would it be to track horizontally through the pillars and see that depth, and hide and reveal it. That was where I would take this next. Is this is a still photograph, but you can put it on a slider.
Yeah.
And you can do all sorts of camera moves with it, and then it's challenging you to learn tracking.
Yeah, tracking and
compositing,
yeah.
and how your angle of incidence changes. That's how your reflections change. And so I think that would take this a lot further. And then instead of doing GIFs, then you can set it to music, create mood.
Yeah,
and really communicate your story, because it's hard to know what your concept is here. As GIFs, and I think it's a nice composite, and I think it's a great starter.
Thank
I
you
think
very
I
much.
think you can take this a lot further.
Yeah, thank you.
I think this is the inception, and you got to see it. You got to take it further. And instead of trying to do all these shots, just do a couple. Like the forest is really intriguing, the subway is really intriguing, because you have all of these objects to create depth.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm wondering how you did that.
Oh,
Well,
using Adobe products.
yeah, maybe. I was using Photoshop as well, and After Effects. I was compositing in After Effects, and yeah, all the correction is in Photoshop. Yeah.
And how long did it take you?
Well, I don't know. Maybe 1 month. The whole series.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Giving it some love.
And the background pictures, did
Yeah,
you take them?
Yeah, I did.
All of them?
Yeah.
So they're all your pictures.
Yeah. My.
This
yeah.
one's cool too.
Yeah. This is actually in Georgia. Yeah.
I want to see a little bit more detail in your
Yeah.
shadows here.
Yeah.
Just because the foreground.
Maybe.
It's a nice composition.
Thanks.
Because you kind of have this point in the distance, which I think is nice, but just a little bit more detail in your shadows, I think, would create a lot of intrigue on what's going on in the foreground.
Yeah.
And was it a
I
university
go hard on
project?
photography, so
No, this is a personal project.
Personal project, yeah.
I'm not in the university anymore. I'm working as an art director at
Okay.
Mito. So yeah.
Is there a project in your portfolio that you don't like at all, but where you really don't know what to do better, where you could ask Bradley for help?
Well, I want to show you another video project. It is much shorter, and this is about how can I disappear from places the most elegant way. And
is this your office? That's a nice desk.
yeah, and this is actually also
Eames chair too.
yeah, if it's
where you work?
buffering. Yeah, there was my
Nice
face.
office.
Well.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, and
Oh, there you go.
yeah, and I put
And you had a little
this,
camera
this
shake on
camera
it.
shake. Yeah, I did this video last year, I guess. So this
There
is
you
very
go.
short. This is a like not a actually a loop video. It's like
It works.
and it's
So,
Funny.
so did you shoot multiple passes? Or just,
yeah. I shoot this one.
And then the camera shake is all done in post?
yeah,
or?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And are you sending this to all of your friends on their birthdays?
No, actually, no. No.
I see. It is a 2D. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2D, absolutely
Yeah.
2D, because I don't have the the match moving system or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was easy to. And I was shooting with this my phone. So,
Yeah.
So
It's a good start. I think too. Why does disappearing have to be about magic? Why does it have to be with a top hat and a blanket? Like you could make this much more kind of in a design aesthetic rather than kind of a traditional classic magician aesthetic. You can take it into a much more moody, interesting kind of vibe. Like you'll get a little bit more fantastic with it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's not creative, because I think that it is creative and it's a beautiful space. But I think just kind of going with what you would expect a magician to do is very straight down the fairway, and I think you could really kind of get more clever with the whole thing.
Yeah.
What if you didn't have a top hat? What if you didn't have a blanket? And what if you didn't have the confetti, but you still did an effect? How would you do that? And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be Star Trek. You're beaming yourself up. You could get really cool with it, know. And what if you're like interacting with something and something's just about to happen and then you're gone? Then it has a little bit of a narrative to it. It has a little bit of a story, which is cool
that's
too.
what I wanna.
It'd be awesome if there was like a dog there reacting to it.
Yeah.
Just so emotionally you can bond with it. When I look at it, I'm like, oh, cool space. I want that desk, and I like your chair, and I like the wall. But like the top hat and stuff. It's just, I feel like it's just too expected.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have another one, and this is also like that kind of.
Those real apples?
They are real apples. This is. I wanted to put together a series, but I don't really have time to develop all the videos.
Yeah.
And
this is a little bit more clever. That's I like that.
Yeah, and
that I would like. I would throw the thing.
Yeah.
You throw it up in the air and just like have you get lost in the falling apples would have been cool. But this is a little bit more, expected. I think this is a little bit cooler.
Thanks. Well, it was hard to, rotoscope all the apples because I did that. I had to do that. And
looks heavy. Was it heavy?
Well, it was, I had a lot of free time.
Yeah.
Did you eat them all
No,
afterwards?
No. No, how should?
I would say
you disappeared, right?
I disappeared.
You weren't around.
couldn't
I would say for this, the lighting is nice, but you could get a little bit more late in the day, so the light's a little bit lower. You're getting a little bit more golden hour. I would throw this thing higher, maybe drop it from a tree, from a string or something, and you just like get showered with apples. Even though that might hurt, it might be for a cool effect.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, but I think the approach and the thinking of you disappearing from a scene is cool. But I think there should be reaction. I think there should be a little bit more clever way of how you set it up and really treat your background and kind of the technique. This is a beginning.
This is
the beginning, yeah. And it's good that you're pushing yourself on your personal work, but like you always want to grow that personal work, right? You never say, I did this, I'm the master of disappearing, because that's never the case. It's like, okay, this is literally step 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
And if you did this 10 times, how good would you be?
Oh yeah.
How good would you be at disappearing? You'd be fucking master.
Oh yeah.
Master of disappearance.
Oh yeah. That would be nice. Yeah.
Is there a different question? Was there a project that caught your eye just by the avatars before you met Istvan?
Yeah.
I think Are you asking him?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm asking you. Yeah.
Oh, asking me.
Yeah.
I mean, I was immediately drawn to this because I'm a photographer and do a lot of landscape stuff, so I immediately wanted to go to Georgia and shoot it. I love moments.
Yeah.
This is a nice moment.
Yeah.
I just love this just from a photography perspective.
This is
yeah. But I think execution wise, it tells a lot about you. When you do like these nice composites. Personally, I like texture and everything.
I do as well. Yeah.
And so some of your work has a really nice texture to it, and some of it doesn't. Like this, I love the eagle, and And I love the portal that the eagle is in, but I don't like the foreground.
Yeah,
I don't like the band because it looks kind of like clip arty, you know? But I like the execution of the eagle in the portal a lot. And I love the texture of it. I just think this is a beautiful image. You don't need these guys.
Yeah.
You don't need these dudes at all,
No.
but this is great. This is beautiful
Yeah.
because it's textured, it's layered, it's interesting. There's nice lighting on all your elements.
Yeah.
There's a nice compositing in here. It's a nicely executed
Thank you very
composite.
much.
But this kind of you just don't need it. I don't understand like what these have to do with
Well,
that.
well, yeah.
Why are they vector? Like I just don't get it.
Because
you know?
that was a concert, and this is the the LED monitors. As
I see.
here is some footage
go,
from
there
the
you go.
concert, and we had to put the little images
I see,
to
I see.
where should we have
So
the
in the
Yeah.
presentation of it, I would just present the art.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you're going to
okay.
know that the band is there. Okay. Let's back up for a second here. So presentation is everything, right?
Yes.
So you're telling a story of your project here, right? So what I would do is I would show an image of the LEDs and the whole thing first.
Yes.
Say, this is what it is. And then you say, this is the art. Let's nerd out on just the art. Just the execution of the art, which is really, there's some nice stuff going on here. I like this idea,
Yeah.
of an escalator. I don't think the lighting matches on these. Like if this was actually in this environment, this wouldn't be lit this way. You think like
yeah.
if you think like that, it's like if you're going to composite, you need to think like as a photographer and say, okay, the lighting needs to match.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing, right? You're trying to trick us into thinking that this actually exists in this world. But you don't need the band there because that just looks cheap to me.
Yeah, okay.
It looks great when it's real. When it's real, it's like, oh hell yeah, there's a band there. Cool, I believe you. And then you
Yeah.
just show the art because the art's nice.
Yeah. Okay. Then
Yeah.
I can change that.
Yeah, you
that's
change
all.
it, man.
Yeah. Well, why not? I
Yeah.
can.
But well
Yeah.
done. Good work, Istvan.
Thank you very
We
much.
have another one to review. So
Can I
thank you.
give them some parting words?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, real quick.
Sure.
I would say, dude, you have a photographic eye, and you're
Yeah.
putting a lot of things into context. So think about the lighting.
Okay.
Think about how things belong with each other, right?
Yeah.
Think about really creating interesting worlds with depth
With
and
depth.
and
All right.
texture, right? And interesting things in the foreground, the midground, the background. Use your lensing. Throw things out of focus.
Uh-huh.
To really
Yeah,
play
of
with
course.
depth. If you're going to composite stuff, you can rack focus to it. You
Yeah.
can rack focus back to really draw your eye to certain moments, right?
All right.
And just really think about all your work, like these composites and stuff, really push the texture, really push
Yeah.
kind of getting like this
Yeah.
all to me just feels like it's all these layers in Photoshop without a finishing layer. And what you do with stuff like this is you always just add that final layer on top that just kind of melds them all together.
Melds
So they
up.
all have a same texture. If you put a little bit of texture on this, and a little bit of dodging and burning, just pulling out certain things, I think it'll be a lot more successful. You clearly have the skills to composite things together and to make a nice assortment of textures and shapes. But I just think you need to work on kind of the finishing layer on everything.
All right.
Hope that
all right.
helps.
Yeah. That
Thank you
would-
very much
Thank
for
you very much.
Free
listening.
advice, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
It was nice
Istvan.
to be
See
here.
you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, take care, man.
Okay, the next one is online. Louis, if you're in the chat, Louis, say hi.
Is this dude?
Yeah, that's him. So
From Barcelona.
Let's start with a project that caught your eye first.
Okay, very different style here. I like the halftone vibes, here. I think Louis or Luis? Louis? Louis?
Louis, yeah.
Louis. All right, Louis. You definitely have you definitely have you're a talented illustrator, and I think me personally, I like kind of the orthographic view here. I like the texture. I like the colors. Also like the palettes here. I think you have a good eye for color. These to me feel like professional illustrations. I like this. I think you got it here. You're good. You're good. But then stuff like this, you lose me, man, because it just feels like kind of cheap 3D that doesn't have that same polish. I think your 2D illustration is wonderful, but I just felt like this one, this is awesome, but then you start to actually see it in 3D, it just loses me. I don't think the render quality and just everything that it looks like is just on par. Like this to me just doesn't feel like, I don't think you need to do that. I think you need to kind of stay with your strengths here, and I wouldn't show your 3D work until it's ready. Like this is great. But then once...
now it's actually loading.
Yeah.
Yay.
Takes a second. But, I don't know. I think, I like the flat shaded. I like the flat shade, but that you lose me. And that might just be me because I'm, I have a really high standard in 3D, but I think you got to play to your strengths, man. If you're an illustrator, you kind of go with this world instead of that world. That's never, no one's going to understand what I'm saying, but it's like your flat renders are better than your specular textured renders on the robot. And
Was
so
there another one that's similar to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, here
where you
kind of
see
showing...
like maybe a repeating mistake or something?
Yeah, I just think showing like the wireframes on top of the things for kind of no reason doesn't really resonate with me either. Like this feels kind of chunky and just like you could illustrate this, in Illustrator way nicer than executing it in 3D. So if I were you, I would stay away from the 3D until it's ready. I don't think this is ready at all. I think this is like, it looks like a completely different artist from the illustration work. I don't like this. I think it just doesn't feel as polished and dialed in as your flat kind of classic illustration work. So I would say work on your 3D work, work on more detailed geometry, work on your lighting, work on your rendering, use a more powerful render engine, start to use GPU renders like Octane and Redshift if you're using Cinema 4D, and really start to look at artists like Beeple, and all of, Raw and Rendered, Joey Camacho, stuff like that to really get really, really nice looking 3D. But like I said, your illustration work resonates. Like I think the colors are nice here. I think the style could be, it's kind of flat and just kind of stiff. So you kind of add a little bit more movement to your line work, just add a little bit more edge. Look at work from Buck and, Justin Fines, some of the classic illustrators, like even Bros Mind, just their characters and kind of how everything has a perspective and a movement to it. I think this feels a little stiff, but I think your eye for color is great. Like I think your colors are nice and tasteful. Here, I think this could have a little bit more movement, more edge to it. These just feel like, vector blend shapes, like pretty blatantly. I think you should just draw this. I don't think you should cut corners. I think you stay with your strengths, which is clearly in your illustration work, and don't try to cut corners by using like blatantly clear techniques. So,
Are
for
these
me...
your final words? For
should
Louis?
they be?
Yeah, they should be.
All right, I talk a lot, Louis.
No, we have not much time left.
But I think this world here, man, like if you look at this piece, like this piece has movement, it has flow, it has, all these elements to kind of swirl and draw your eye around the design. The colors are great. This is successful. I don't know if you made this in 3D and rendered it this way, but this is your jam, dude. This is kind of where you should need to go. The 3D work is not there yet, man. It's very, very entry level where this is happening, dude. So if you stick with this kind of vibe, I think you're going to find a lot of success.
Right.
And your portfolio is kind of, you have a mixture of both. And it just feels, like I said, man, it feels like two different artists. And I think there's some stuff that's really strong and there's some stuff that's really weak here. So if you're around, Louis, we can wrap and I can give you some more tips because we're out of time, apparently.
Yeah, yeah, almost. Yeah, sounds great.
Good luck, Louis.
I hope, Louis, you enjoyed that review. Thank you very much, Bradley.
Yeah.
And your talk again tonight at...
7:45.
7:45.
Yeah.
So if you guys are in Barcelona at OFF, don't miss Bradley. Thank you very much for showing your work and
of course.
Deep diving into scientific projects. That's really amazing. And coming up next is the Project Gemini team. So stay in. Yes. Watch it if you're interested in illustrations, but it's more 2D rather than 3D. You guys out there, stay in and ask questions in the chat. Bye.